$612. That's the number on your screen at 11:52 on a Tuesday night, lying on a mattress you bought off someone 2 exits away because new felt like a luxury you hadn't earned yet. You check it again at 11:53. It hasn't moved. It won't move until Friday, and by Friday, it'll already belong to rent. You tell yourself you're not behind. Everyone your age is doing this same math in the dark, the same quiet subtraction before they fall asleep. You just don't talk about it. Nobody does, not at this level. Here's the part almost nobody tells you. This exact number, $612, isn't actually the problem. The problem is that you think the next paycheck fixes it. It won't, because here's the thing most people completely miss. More income at zero doesn't create wealth. It just raises the ceiling on what you can spend before you feel that same hum of nothing again. The first rule: at zero, your relationship with money is entirely emotional, and emotional decisions compound in the wrong direction. You'll see exactly how that plays out in a minute, because the version of you sitting at $612 and the version of you sitting at 6 figures are going to make almost the same decision for almost opposite reasons. If you've ever stared at a banking app wondering if the number is supposed to feel different than this, stick around, because this is going to climb all the way to $100 million, and you're going to recognize yourself at more stops along the way than you'd like to admit. Hit subscribe if you want to see where you actually land on this ladder. Because $612 isn't the bottom, it's just where the climb starts. You pay off the smaller card first, $1,200, gone. You screenshot the zero balance and send it to nobody, because nobody would understand why this matters as much as it does to you. But it does, because for the first time, a number moved in the right direction because of a decision you made, not because of luck. That's the shift, not the dollar amount, the direction. 18 months later, you cross $8,500 in savings, and you check it constantly that first week, not out of anxiety this time, out of disbelief. You've never had 5 figures before, and even though you're not quite there yet, you already feel like you've crossed into a different category of person. You haven't, but you feel it. Here's where it gets interesting. You open a brokerage account and put $1,500 into an index fund. The market dips the very next day. You almost pull it out. You don't. And that one decision is bigger than the $1,500 itself, because this is the moment you find out whether fear runs your choices or you do. Think about it this way. Compound interest is a snowball rolling downhill. At $1,500, the snowball is the size of a fist. It barely picks up anything, but it's already rolling, and a snowball that's rolling for 30 years looks nothing like one that's rolling for 3. Most people quit before the hill gets steep enough to matter. That's not a money problem. That's a patience problem dressed up as a money problem. The second rule: salary is a ceiling dressed up as a floor. Once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. You're making $51,000 a year. You're maxing the 401k, you've got a Roth IRA actually getting contributions every month, and by every measure that matters on paper, you're fine, stable, doing what you were told to do. But what if I told you that doing everything right at this stage still isn't enough to get you where you actually want to go? Because there's a number coming up where doing everything right stops being the strategy and starting to build something of your own becomes the only thing that actually moves the needle. You hit $40,000 saved, you're maxing the 401k, you've got a Roth IRA actually getting contributions every month, and by every measure that matters on paper, you're fine, stable, doing what you were told to do. Then one night, you run the real numbers, not the rough mental math, the actual numbers, typed into a spreadsheet, projected out 40 years at your current income and your current savings rate, and something tightens in your chest, because the number at the end isn't what you thought it was. It's fine, it's enough to survive on, it is not what you actually want. Here's the myth almost everyone believes at this stage, that saving harder is the same strategy as building wealth. It isn't. Saving protects you, it doesn't multiply you. The flywheel only spins on its own once you give it something other than your hours to push it, and your hours are the one thing you can't get back and can't 10x. So you start something on the side. You don't call it a business, it's just a thing you do on weekends that brings in $400 a month, then $900, then $1,700. You don't tell your employer, you barely tell anyone. You reinvest almost all of it back in for over a year, eating the same lunches, driving the same car, and your net worth quietly climbs past $80,000, then past $110,000. If you're sitting here thinking none of this applies because you're starting from zero or starting at 35 instead of 23, here's the actual math. The side project mattered more than the starting age. Every single rung on this ladder was reachable from wherever the previous one ended. The $1,700 a month started as $400 a month, which started as nothing at all but a Tuesday night and a decision to spend 2 extra hours doing something that compounds instead of something that doesn't. You start measuring your hours differently now. Every hour spent on something that doesn't build anything is an hour the machine isn't running. You notice you've stopped mentioning money to certain people, not out of secrecy, but because you've watched what happens when you do. It makes things strange, either envy or dismissal. Neither one is useful, so you just stay quiet and keep building. By the time you cross $150,000, you've got a small rental property with real equity in it, a brokerage account that's actually meaningful now, and a side income that some months out-earns your actual paycheck. You still drive the same car. Nobody around you really knows. By $920,000, you've stopped sleeping the way you used to, not from stress, from intensity. You're running scenarios in the shower. You turn down a job offer paying more than you make now, and you can't fully explain it to people who love you, so you just tell them it didn't feel right. Then it happens, a Tuesday, nothing ceremonial about it. The brokerage app refreshes, and the number reads $1,003,000. You wait for the feeling everyone talks about. There's a flicker of it, and then almost immediately it's gone. Because here's the part nobody warns you about. $1 million at a 4% return is $40,000 a year. That's not freedom. It's a starting point you already knew was coming. You stop going to the events that used to make you feel connected to something. The meetups, the seminars, the rooms full of people talking about what they're building and never once mentioning what it's costing them. You don't resent it. You just don't need it anymore. By $2.3 million, money stops being something you're anxious about and becomes something you simply allocate, the way you allocate time or attention. You hire a wealth manager, then fire him 6 months later because you realize you understand your own money better than he does. By $5 million, the game changes texture entirely. You're not building anymore, you're positioning. Moving capital instead of hours, sitting in deals where the win isn't any single trade, it's staying in the game longer than the people across the table. Here's the identity reframe, because this is really what the whole climb was for. You are no longer someone managing scarcity. You're someone who thinks in decades while everyone around you is still thinking in paychecks. That shift, not the dollar figure, is the actual finish line at every stage of this ladder, all the way up to $100 million. If this is the kind of thing that actually changes how you see your own number, subscribe, because the next video picks up exactly where this leaves off. And somewhere tonight, in a city you'll never know the name of, there's someone lying on a second-hand mattress checking a banking app at 11:52, watching $612 refuse to move. They think this is a story about money. It never was. It's a story about who they have to become before the number does.